me know when you're here. Getting a little bit of a late start. Getting cozy on the floor. Getting my Facebook Live up and running. Hello, darling ones. How are we doing? Welcome to another self-love sermon. Let me know when you're here. I'm in a new position tonight. I'm going to explain why here in a minute. Let me know when you've arrived. Hi, Brenna. Welcome. So my name is Ellen Gilbert, in case you have never joined a self-love sermon or you're listening to the replay. I guess I should speak into the mic. This is a whole new setup, so forgive any technical difficulties. Let me know if you can't hear me. So I just started feeling really weird about half an hour ago. I definitely think I'm about to start my period. Might start it this hour. And if talking about periods grosses you out, you are in the wrong place, my loves, because we cannot authentically love and care for ourselves if we are bleeding without acknowledging that cycle and that process. And that's one of my great purposes here on the planet, is to destigmatize the menstrual cycle and talk about menstrual awareness as part of my self-care practice. Hi, Caitlin's. Both of the Caitlins. Welcome, welcome. I'm on the floor. I'm feeling a little weird. I had a migraine on Sunday, and it kind of hasn't completely gone away. Just a very light, under the surface sort of nausea and dizziness. So anyway, that's what's going on with me. Welcome, Micah. And, I thought about canceling tonight. I thought about not showing up. But then I thought, well, what better opportunity to demonstrate self-care than when you're feeling really not well, and when you're feeling kind of just low energy. And I feel like personally, I really long for rituals when I'm feeling low, when I'm sick. Okay, rituals as the representation of community, even if it's just with yourself, right? That relationship. Ritual as a demonstration of making meaning, making the internal external. And I've never done this before, but I thought, you know what we could do for self-love sermon? We could make some rituals together. So, I'm the brave one. I'm here with my camera on, okay? Gonna look like a woo-woo witchy freak over here, which, again, I am totally embracing. But you can perform ritual without your camera on. So I invite you to push yourself a little bit tonight. In the next hour, or however long we go, it might be a little less than an hour tonight, depending on how I feel, because I'm gonna be connecting to my body the whole time. But if it feels in alignment, let's create ritual together. Let's do it. Usually we light the candle, and then we perform the self-care practices, and we have a really long conversation about an aspect of the inner life, self-talk, the Dharma. But tonight, let's let the ritual be the teacher and guide us. How does it sound, dear ones? I'm excited. I'm excited to create ritual with all of you, to share with you some rituals that I find really grounding and just healing and nurturing and so, so sweet. So let me know what you think. Hey, Claire Bear, welcome. And just to kick us off, as always, I'm going to light the candle. So this is the simplest ritual. If this is your first self-love sermon, We always kick it off this way. I kick off my moon circle this way, which is a gathering of women that meet under the full moon. Um, a candle. It's so simple, but the flame is so symbolic. I mean, our ancestors, this is the only light they had at night. This and the stars and the moon. Fire. Some say we became humans when we invented fire, when we started talking around the fire, and then, of course, being able to cook our food over the fire gave us all this time to form these large social groups because we weren't eating this like highly fibrous food all day. It was cooked down, it was softer. And so fire gave us community. Like when we created fire, we became human. We started these larger social groups and we started telling stories. We started creating culture. We started making meaning of our lives. And now we've got all this artificial light and all these screens. I know I'm coming at you through a screen. Very grateful for that technology, especially in this pandemic season. But natural light, which includes fire, is highly restorative, healing. To deprive our senses of artificial light for some time every day is also very healing. So let's start out. Let's light a candle. Let's set an intention, a sankalpa for this time together. Let me know what you're here to receive from yourself. If you want to type it in the comment, in the chat, on Instagram or Facebook, just let me know, like, what draws you here? What is your intention? What are you needing from yourself tonight? What are you needing from this container? And as I light the candle, I honor all of our beautiful intentions and our ritual making together. And as long as this candle is burning, space is being held for these intentions. We are a coven of creators together, wielding our divine feminine magic and energy to feel good in our bodies, to feel good in our minds, to feel good in our spirits, to create beauty and life. And so it is. And so it is, dear ones. Haven't seen any intentions come through. I would love to hear yours if you want to share it in the chat. But let's get started because we've got some rituals to do today. So I thought I'd start us off with a little breath practice. Breathwork can also be ritual, right? How would you define ritual? I would say it's a way of making meaning of your life. It's a way of making that inner landscape external through symbols, through use of the elements. You can use water, earth, salt, fire, air. You can use your breath. You can use art and creativity. You can use the mantra. You can use the hands on the body. Soon you start to see how everything is a symbol and the manifestation power of the ritual is potent because it's that sankalpa, that intention that does the energetic work. And so if we can put this like symbolic attempt around it in the physical realm, it really helps align our mind and our body and our spirit with what we want and withdrawing it towards ourselves. Beautiful intentions. Caitlin says guidance for future decisions. I think I know what you're talking about. Micah says patience. Caitlin says peace through transitions. Claire says I'm here for tranquility. A lot of tranquility and peace, patience, guidance. Yes, this is what we need from ourselves tonight, beautiful ones. I need healing. I need to feel well. I need calm. And I feel like I need to share. I need to share how simple it is to create ritual in every season of life. That was originally going to be the topic, was cycles and seasons. And now it's like, well, here we go, because every season needs a ritual. And we're going to do a little work with that. So let's just kick it off right away. I'm going to play some music. I hope it comes through on both Instagram and Facebook. Let me know if you're having trouble hearing. I'll try to troubleshoot as much as I can. But before I hit play, let me explain. We're going to do some breath work. So because we're talking about seasons, oh yeah, Caitlin said peace through transitions, right? That's perfect. So seasons and transitions. We often don't allow space for the transition. Do you notice that? We're so rushing into the next season. We're always planning and preparing and bracing ourselves for what's next, or leaning into the next season, hoping it contains what this one lacks. And that lack of presence, as we know, creates immense suffering. And so one value of the seasons is the liminality, the transition, allowing space around change, allowing us to be present because we know, like, naturally there will be another season. There's so much wisdom in seasons, you guys. In every death, there is rebirth. In every illness or suffering, there is healing on the other side. In every winter, there's a spring awaiting. With every sunset, there's a sunrise coming back around. But we need the darkness to restore. Many healers equate the moon as ruling the feminine and the sun as ruling the masculine. And you can think of it as this yin and yang energy. The yin, the rest, the darkness, of which our culture hasn't had much of, hasn't allowed space for. Many say until now, until the season of staying home, trying to protect our health and our loved ones. But I digress. So let's focus on the seasons tonight. On every in-breath, we're going to think of spring. That sweet spring, vitality, newborn energy. We're going to hold it at the top. This represents summer, the fullness. You can think of a big, swollen, pregnant belly, the fullness of fertility and abundance and life. On every exhale, we're going to imagine the autumn, the fall time, the time of release, slowing back down. And on the pause between the exhale and the inhale, this is the winter, the void. The Celts call this time the dreaming time. My ancestors, the dreaming time. A necessary void out of which life can be created. Yes? So again, just to go over that, we're going to listen to a song. You might not be able to hear me, but just remember, inhale, spring, hold at the top, summer, exhale, autumn, pause between winter. Just kind of get acquainted with that cycle. Don't hurt yourself. I mean, breathe as you need to, but I want you to think about these seasons and these transitions as a big wheel that turns and turns and turns, just like the breath cycle, which also has these 4 parts. So let's get going. Go at your own pace. Whenever you're ready, you can let it go. Keeping the eyes closed, just reflect on the nature of seasons, the changing nature of life. Just as you wouldn't identify with the inhale or the exhale wherever you are in the breath cycle, because that would be idiotic. Do not identify with what season of life you are in. See it from a bird's eye view. You were born. Now you live. And one day you will die. This truth that all of society tells us we should flee from. This truth that everything tells us we should avoid, deny. But notice when you tap into this truth that one day you will pass away. This body will cease to function and breathe. This heart will cease beating. When you sit with the impermanence of your existence, does it open a portal into deeper presence? Does it put things in perspective, perhaps? Does it urge you, Dead Poet Society style, to seize the day, to be present, to lean into the fullness of life that's right here? Take one more deep belly breath in, filling the lungs completely. Hold it at the top and release. You can gently blink your eyes open when you're ready, not to bum anyone out there, but impermanence can be a friend of presence. All right, so rituals. I was going to share a bit about my morning ritual. So I'm a huge Danielle Laporte fan. If you guys don't know her, she wrote the Desire Map, and she talks about core desired feelings, which I am obsessed with, which is this idea that under every intention, under every desire, there's one thing you want to feel. And we can be really misguided at getting to that feeling. But when we are aware of what we want to feel, it can guide our day. We can create the day to make sure we get that feeling with intention. And so I have her desire map planner. And at the bottom of every page, she has listed a new core desired feeling. And it's not like you have to use that one, but they're like little perforated corners. And at the end of 2019, I tore off all of the words. So this one is tranquil. And it's just a really sweet little, um, uh, and the back says cheerful. They're double sided. They're just sweet words, really, really nourishing words. And I tore them off and I put them in my little box here. And I draw one every morning. And sometimes I just want to set my own intention, okay? But rituals can be really helpful because they're a container for the guidance that we want to receive. So this morning I drew the word fluid, which I thought was really interesting. Fluidity, flow. And then you kind of interpret it. Sorry, I'm shifting because I'm on the ground. You interpret it however you want, right? And you think, like, okay, can I see myself living a life of fluidity today? Can I be in the flow? Maybe my mantra can be related to being fluid. It's just a word, it's just a symbol, but it's open to me to interpret it. And so I have a few morning rituals. I do my morning pages. I set a timer for 10 minutes and I free write. And I am a writer, so it helps me kind of open and clear that creative channel. And it doesn't matter what you write about. You can just write about what you ate the day before or about, what you want to feel today or your to-do list. It can be really boring, but the point is to not pick your pen up for 10 minutes. And sometimes I draw the word before my morning pages and then I write about that word. Just anything. And it's not supposed to be like really good art to read later for someone else. It's just supposed to, again, clear that channel. It helps me align with my intention for the day. So that's one ritual you could try. Um, or sometimes I sketch, or I use watercolors, or I use some kind of coloring pencil or something. I've got a ton of art supplies here that we're gonna dig into. But and then maybe I'll color around that word. I'll draw symbols. I'll write mantra and make it like really pretty. It just, again, it helps me connect to my divine source of creativity as an artist. And it also helps me express myself, which is a huge purpose of self care and of ritual. So, we're going to try something a little different. Those are just a couple ideas for you, dear ones. I also love writing a mantra for the day that is or isn't based on my word of the day. Some people pull a tarot card. I do that once a week on Tuesdays for the week ahead. And I share that on my Instagram stories, by the way. Um, and you can also use astrology, like really paying attention to where things are and what's coming up for you. These are all symbols, these are all intuitive guides, containers for your own interpretation again and self expression. So, I invite you right now to take out a piece of paper if possible. You could use your phone for this, I suppose, like a note taking app, but I really would encourage you to get some color going because it can really help. I posted today on my Luminous Leanings Facebook page something I came across, which was using art therapy as self-care, and it really got my wheels turning because I'm like, well, I already use it in my own self-care routine, so why not use it in my coaching or use it in these self-love sermons? So I have a piece of paper. I'm just making this up, guys. This is where the best rituals come from. You just make it up as you go along. You feel into what you need in the moment. And you allow yourself the space to do it. Freedom from judgment, freedom from fear. It's a really beautiful thing. So take out a piece of paper and divide it into 4 quadrants. So just doesn't have to be perfect. Just 4 quadrants like this. And then we're going to pick 4 seasons. So I wouldn't say pick spring, summer, fall, winter. Those are a little too, maybe too big, too long. But do whatever works for you. Okay. It could be that. It could be the seasons of your life. It could be the moon phases. So right now we're in a waning crescent, which is associated with lower energy, winding down, preparing for the void of the new moon. But we're coming off that high of the full moon, the celebratory energy. And it could be the phases of the moon. If you're a bleeding person, as I am, a womb-bodied person who tracks and is aware and has a relationship to their menstrual cycle, I invite you to use that. It's very interesting. Each quadrant would represent 1 week then. 1 week of the cycle. Every woman's cycle, every person's cycle, I should say, is a different length. Mine has been 34 days, which is quite long on the spectrum. I think the average is 28 days, and it does align with the length of the lunar cycles, because month comes from the word moon. So if you're not a bleeding person, you could use the phases of the moon, as we said. But if you are like me, I'm going to be using my menstrual cycle. And I was taught by Claire Baker. She is a period coach, about the different phases of my cycle. So I'll just share a little bit about that with you as we go. So I'm writing winter, spring, summer, fall, and it's the seasons of my menstrual cycle. But that's how she refers to it. So right now I've just made a quadrant and I've written at the top the seasons that I'm focusing on. These are related to my menstrual cycle, as I said, winter, spring, summer, fall. You can choose the moon phases instead. Those would be the 2 that I would recommend going with, but do whatever your intuition is telling you need to focus on in terms of seasons. And so the winter of our cycle, which you could correlate to the new moon energy. Okay, so whether it's the winter or the new moon that you're looking at, it's associated with the void again, right? It's associated with rest, sort of going into the cave, being a hermit. It's associated with setting intentions. And for Claire Baker, who I mentioned, she has a word for each season in the menstrual cycle. And for the winter, it's surrender. So I'm going to go ahead and write surrender as well. So let's look at that first quadrant, whatever it is for you, and take out some colors. I have lots of like pens and markers, coloring pencils. Pick a color that you relate to that season. And just start drawing. Draw whatever comes to your heart, to your mind, to your body, to really symbolize this season. It can be shapes, it can be words, it can be symbols, it can be full-on portraits. Whatever feels right in your body. I'm getting a lot of blues for winter. Suppose I could be using red because the bleed is the winter time in the menstrual cycle. If I didn't say that before, I apologize. The winter is the time of the bleeding. It is a time for many of us that's very, very difficult to surrender to. We want to be going 24/7. We are pressured by this capitalist society we live in to measure our worth by our productivity. We are pressured by this patriarchy to be ashamed of our cycle, to deny our cycle's existence, to not become acquainted with our cycle, to not do anything differently when we bleed. And yet we are going through something very intense that is worthy of a pause, space, honoring, ritual. I want so much ritual when I am bleeding. So I just drew like blues or what are coming to me, and of course the big red dot to symbolize the bleed. And now let's move on to the next season. Whenever you're ready. Remember, you can use words. It doesn't have to be a picture. I encourage you to choose a color that you associate with this next season. For me, it's spring. It's my inner spring during my menstrual cycle. The whole thing is a cycle. It's not just the bleed, it's everything. So spring, for us that bleed, is when our hormones are starting to rise again. The word associated with this season is start. Just start. You just have so much fresh energy, newness. You're like the newborn baby coming out of the womb that was the winter. And so see how it's related to the cycles of nature. So for spring, feeling pink, like hot pink. Absolutely. Like being young and, maybe a little foolish, but in the best way. What does this season of your life offer to you? Like, what's the medicine? Or what do you need to offer it? So for the winter, I mentioned I needed more ritual. I feel that. I need space, silence. I need darkness. In the spring, I need sunshine. I need birds singing, like all the cheesy Cinderella things. I need to be wearing flowy dresses. I need to be just starting all the projects, getting excited about this new cycle, this new opportunity. Every bleed or every new moon is a big red reset button. You get to start again. What good news. What good news. So we're just coloring in our inner spring, or our, this would be the waxing energy, the waxing crescent moon, the quarter moon, the waxing gibbous moon. All of that would be contained within the spring if you're doing the moon cycles. I'm finding every color pink that I have, and I'm just going to town. The word for spring, I said, is start. I need to write that here. So this is my spring. It's just a lot of pink, stars, hearts, the word start. Don't judge yourself. We're not here to be perfect. I'm the only one showing anyone what I've done, okay? You can keep it to yourself. This is a solo ritual. Sometimes it's so hard to let ourselves go and just have fun in these rituals, even though we're alone. Isn't that interesting? Like, where is the shame coming from? Gotta let that shit go. I'm gonna have a sip of water. I hope this is fun for you guys. Drop me a comment. Let me know how it's going so far. And I'm gonna move on to the third season. For me, it's that inner summer. Maybe for you, it's the full moon energy, the bountiful harvest. In the menstruating person, it's that ovulation time. woo, fertility, peak sexiness, on the prowl, like so social, so vibrant, luminous. It's a time that is very much heralded and celebrated by our patriarchal society and our capitalist society, but we can take it back. You know, it doesn't have to exist to create a product that we can sell. It can exist to nourish us. Like we can take all of this energy, this estrogen, this testosterone, and we can just allow ourselves to feel good in this season. Not for anyone else, for ourselves. Of course, the inner summer is my favorite time. I plan all of my big engagements around this season. Anytime I want to show up in like a program or to do a webinar or some sort of travel, it's during my inner summer. I try to make it during my inner summer. It really goes a long way. I feel so vibrant. I'm picking all the fiery colors. Caitlin says she just cleaned her apartment and found her markers. I love it so much. Yes, get them out. Put them in your self-care space. What does this season look like for you? What are the words, the feelings, the medicine associated with it? The word for summer, according to this period coach I mentioned, Claire Baker, who I'm obsessed with, the word is serve. So it's during our inner summer that we can really look toward how do we serve the world? How do we show up for our loved ones? If you're in business, for our clients, for our families, for our friends. How do we show up for community? It's a really good time to start community, to reach out, to make plans, serve. And it doesn't mean we're not serving the rest of the time, but it means we're being more intentional about it. We have more to give. I mean, sometimes in my inner summer, I feel like I could just give and give and give. But in the fall and winter, of course, and even the spring, maybe the energy's not there yet. We have to really protect our energy during that time, even more so. If this is your full moon season, then this is really that time of the gratitude for the harvest, that fullness of life. You're maybe a little bit more mature than that like maiden energy of spring. Maybe you're now like that full-on mother archetype, the more mature muse, if you will. It's really that peak. It's the peak of your life. It's the peak of the season and the cycle. It's a really exciting time. Now we will shift into our final season. If you couldn't see what I just shared with you, it was I drew a flame because I think of fire. I'm so fiery in the best way possible. In the summer, very vibrant, warm. Everyone's my best friend. And I wrote the word serve. So my last season is my inner fall. Maybe for you, that's the waning moon. The spring was the waxing moon. The fall would be the waning moon. So the waning gibbous, the second quarter moon, the waning crescent, going back into that new moon energy, remember. And so this season is all about slowing and soothing. Just imagine being more intentional with that week in your life. Oh yeah, I can have more space because I'm in my inner fall or because that moon is waning. you know? And even if it feels silly or like an excuse, remember, we are all cyclical beings. We are not go, go, go 24/7. That is unrealistic, harmful. It's not what we're about. It's not what we were made for. And it can actually be an act of rebellion towards the systems. To show a little compassion, bring a little space, allow ourselves a little slowing down. So that's what the inner fall is all about. Slow and soothe. Pick out some colors that represent that for you. Really get into it. Like, breathe as you're coloring. Don't forget the breath. In everything, right? We're being intentional. We're feeling the shifts. We're not just doing this like a robot. We're constantly asking, what do I want to feel? What is this season about? It's a different color. It also just brings up so many, like, I'm not an educator, so those of you that are, please tell me what kind of learning this is. But it brings up memories from like childhood, to just be coloring, to just have, and I used to love getting out my art supplies. It's like when you're a kid, people are like, ooh, maybe she'll be an artist. And then you're like, okay, that's a pretty unrealistic job. I mean, some people are, and that's great. But then it's like you grow up and you're like, oh, I don't really have time for that anymore. How sad. How sad. So we can bring it into our ritual, into our self-care. You are worthy. I'm showing the Instagram, by the way, when I do this, for those of you on Facebook. So fall for me, slow and soothe. It's these downward arrows. For some reason, Mardi Gras colors. That was not intentional. So these are my cycles. These are my seasons. I allow myself to have more compassion. Maybe for you, it's taking each quadrant and listing. Maybe you could, after we're done, flip it over and list for each quadrant the rituals you will try, the practices, the self-care you will attempt. Just create a bank for each season once we're done with this call. Like for me, the inner winter, I take so many baths. I pretty much only take them in my inner winter. I do yoga nidra. I actually did one right before I got on this call. So just ways you can intentionally nourish yourself in those seasons. Your future self will thank you. Micah says, coloring such a great grounding exercise, using different parts of your brain, focus on the movement of your hand and the repetitive motion. Thank you, Micah. That is so helpful. All right, dear ones. So I've shared some rituals I do. We just created our seasons. The reason I brought up the box was I was going to draw a word for each season, but it's okay. We didn't do that. But just know you can find these word banks online. I think Danielle Laporte has one. It's called Core Desired Feelings. And you can even cut up your own and put them in a bowl and draw one for each season. Draw one for each day. Whatever feels good and nourishing for you. Okay. Some other uses for ritual. I recently started incorporating honoring the New Mexico land spirits and the native people from my land, an offering in my ritual. And so sometimes I'll find and I'll dry herbs or plants from out in the desert, and then I'll actually bring them into my altar and I'll just set the intention. I mean, this would be the work of crazy people if we didn't set the intention, right? Like the intention is what makes it meaningful. The intention is what really brings it into meaning. My husband just walked in the house and the door's open. Hold on one second. John? I don't know where he went. Anyway, he might walk back here. But basically, you can bring this in as well. So if you don't know the indigenous people that lived or live on the land where you are currently residing, I invite you to look it up and just sort of honor them. It doesn't have to be anything grandiose, but just kind of sending your gratitude into the land, sending your gratitude into the water. You can close the door, sorry. To thank the plants, to thank the people that lived here or do live here. Just thank the place on which you are rooted. It can really help you have a sense of place. It can help you root down. It can help you have more gratitude, as I said. So that's another ritual I like to do. And then we're going to do another one right now. So take out another piece of paper. It can be smaller. It doesn't have to be a whole sheet. You can like tear off part of a sheet or take a really small note. And actually we're going to need 2 of these. Same size pieces of paper. And on the first one, we're going to write our deepest fear. So it can be your deepest fear today. It can be your deepest fear for this season. We're all in this pandemic season together, aren't we? Just write your deep fear that you're feeling in your body. If you're having trouble connecting to it, you can write a short sentence from your inner critic who we've worked with together before. It can be in the first person. It can be in their voice. This can be really intense. So hold a little space around this, or it can be one word, just the fear, the thing that you are most struggling with, that you most want to release. Okay, so write that down. Sorry, I keep adjusting. I'm having some hip pain tonight. Okay, so once you've got that, grab like a bowl or a bowl of water might even be better. I'm gonna put some water on mine when I'm done. If it feels okay, we're gonna burn this message. And if you don't have access to a flame, you can of course rip it up as an alternative. But this is a great ritual because we wrote the thing down. We can kind of look at it. You can feel it in your body. If you didn't really connect as you were writing, connect with it now, just looking at it. Allow yourself to just kind of take that in, that this is part of your experience. Your thoughts can be real but not true. Okay? So we're honoring this. We are going to burn it. That's not to push it away or avoid it. First, we honor it. We fold it. We see it. We witness it. Okay? We can understand it a little bit, maybe. And then you can say some words, you know? You can always, for any ritual, a good practice is to call on your guides. If you have spirit guides, if you believe in a divine, higher power, If you want to call on your ancestors who have passed on, who are bright and well, meaning who are in a good place in the afterlife and able to support you. You can call on, again, the land spirits, the water spirits. You can call on your higher self, your future self. I would encourage you to develop a relationship with some type of support. It could also just be a loved one who is living, or a teacher, a spiritual teacher who you look up to. These are all symbols for the same thing. So just to call on them. Sometimes I just say I call on my spirit guides, my higher self, the divine goddess energy that runs through all beings. And I ask them to take this fear, take this inner critic narrative, if it is in highest alignment, I release this fear. And we're going to light it on fire. Be safe, of course. But we don't have to be afraid. We're not children anymore. We can be trusted to create ritual. So just light it, drop it in the bowl, maybe pour water on it if you wish. Mine was smoking a lot, so I wanted to do that. Or let it burn all the way. And just feel, perhaps watch it disintegrate. This is a symbol for its disintegration as you release it in your being. So it is a ritual. On the next piece of paper, write down something you're excited about, something you're visioning, something you're manifesting. It could be one word, or if you want, it could be a sentence from your future self or from your guides that you're connecting to. What would they say to you? What would your future self say? What's just a message of hope that you need to hear right now after witnessing the other message? It should bring a big smile to your face. And just hold it again, look at it. Maybe bring a hand to the heart, really letting it in. Taking a few breaths. And when you're ready, fold this one up. This one we are not going to burn. We're going to tuck away somewhere that we might find in a moment of need. I'm just going to draw a little heart on it to remind myself. Oh, Claire almost lit herself on fire. Oh no, I'm so sorry. I hope you're okay. Oh, dear one. This comes with a little bit of a risk, I guess. So I've got my little note here that I've written for myself. I'm going to tuck it away behind my little Buddha up here for me to find later. You can put it in a book, journal, wherever you need it, wherever you think you're going to need it. And you'll remember this sweet intention. There are so many things like this. I mean, the possibilities are endless because the bounds of your creativity are limitless. Trust yourself, trust the process, Get weird with it. I incorporate the bath a lot, like putting bath salts. The salt can be the intention, and as it dissolves, I'm absorbing it through my skin. Like, the more you do it, and there are lots of books and resources online, the more you practice ritual, the more creative you become, and the more you trust yourself to do it. You're carving new neural pathways. I guarantee your ancestors had ritual that helped them make meaning of their life. And a lot of these were severed. Many remain, many we can read about. Let's bring them back. Let's incorporate what works. Let's create our own. And this is a self-love sermon, so this is the church of self-love. Like, church exists for making ritual. And if you've left the church, or if you are never a part of a church, you can feel that real loss just in what it is to be a human disconnected from ritual. I think it's one of our biggest cravings, one of our biggest longings, is not only for community, but for ritual. And at least we can have this ritual with ourselves, but also try to find ways to invite others in. We don't have to do this work alone, remember. I love it. Share a picture of your ritual. Tag Luminous Leanings on Facebook or Instagram. Let's keep the conversation going. I want to know, like, this week, what rituals do you come up with in the morning or in the evening or in your different seasons and cycles? What are you going to come up with? This was a really fun self-love sermon, you guys. Thank you for holding the space for me to share this. Sorry, I'm feeling really under the weather. But I think it was a good one. I'd love to hear in the comments, like, your big takeaways from this week, and yeah, just what you're excited about when it comes to ritual. And I'll share it out if I see any in the next little bit. But just a final little song for us. And with this one, we'll just breathe again. Maybe breathe as normal, but bring a hand to whatever part of the body really needs to be held and acknowledged, okay? And this is all about release because, again, surrendering that new moon energy, for me, the inner winter, the bleed, the dream time. We have to honor it as well. Just sit for a little bit. That's loud. Keep breathing intentionally, deeply. And so it is. Blessings on you this coming week. Blessings on your night. Blessings on your ritual. Blessings on your self-care practice, your self-love embodiment. Blessings on your presence and on your feeling good. I love each and every one of you. Thank you for joining another self-love sermon. Invite your friends and remember to support me by donating. You can go to luminousleanings.com and there's just a little link at the top to support my work. I would greatly appreciate it if you got something out of tonight. If you have the space and you wish to support this work of self-love and spreading this news. Um, Thank you so much. Thank you for being part of this community. I'm so excited to see it continue to grow. Bye, dear ones.